Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kita mulakan kelas kita dengan membaca Ummul Kitab Al-Fatihah. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, arrahmanirrahim, maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammadin asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi washabbihi ajmain. Ya Allah ya Tuhan kami, ampunkanlah dosa-dosa kami, ampunkanlah dosa kedua ibu bapa kami dan kasihilah mereka sebagaimana mereka mengasihi kami di masa kecil. Ya Allah ya Tuhan kami, kurniakanlah kepada kami ilmu yang bermanfaat untuk diri kami, keluarga kami, agama kami, bangsa kami dan negara kami. Ya Allah ya Tuhan kami, berilah kepada kami kejayaan di dunia dan di akhirat. Ya Allah ya Tuhan kami, jadikanlah kami orang-orang yang bersyukur. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina azabannar. Walhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Okay, alhamdulillah kita bersyukur pada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Pada hari ini kita dapat memulakan kelas kita yang pertama walaupun secara online selama 3 minggu yang pertama. Dan tahniah yang saya ucapkan kepada anak-anak semua yang telah sampai kepada semester 5 ataupun semester 6 untuk mengambil subjek FAR 320 ni . Okay. So ada berapa orang dalam kelas ni? Kalau ikut senarai yang ada pada saya ada 19. Tapi ada kat sini ada berapa ni? Ada 14. Ada 14 orang. Ada yang berkongsi device ke? Okey, tak apa. Jadi saya ambil dulu attendance. Saya ambil attendance, saya panggil nama. Sebut saya ya. Imran, Ahmad Imran. Ada?
Tengah on the way. On the way.
On the way. On the way naik motor. Okey, on the way kita tak tanda dulu. Muhammad Syahril.
Saya.
Okey, Muhammad Syahril. Muhammad Haziq.
Saya.
Okey. Nur Ardini. Tak ada. Nur Hazikah Diana. Tak ada. Reza Arifin.
Saya.
Okey. Zai Amirul.
Saya.
Okey. Aina Safia.
Saya.
Okey. Atirah. Tak ada. Mariah Khairisha.
Saya.
Okey. Muhammad Amir Iqbal. Tak ada. Muhammad Ammar. Tak ada. Muhammad Faris Iqbal. Tak ada. Nur Alia Syafiqah.
Saya.
Okey. Nur Atikah.
Saya.
Okey. Nur Batrisya.
Saya.
Okey. Nur Salwani.
Saya.
Okey. Siti Farhana. Tak ada. Siti Hazikah. Tak ada. Ada tak nama yang saya tak sebut?
Saya.
Ya.
Saya.
Saya Ahmad Imran.
Ahmad Imran yang on the way tadi . On the way daripada mana?
Daripada tempat lain sir.
Tempat lain. Daripada tempat lain ke tempat lain.
Maaf sir.
Tak apa. Lagi? Siapa lagi?
Saya Syahira.
Siapa?
Syahira.
Syahira. Syahira, kenapa nama tak ada kat sini?
Tak tahu.
Syahira Ahmad.
Yes.
SYAHIRA Ahmad. Nombor metrik
2021
021
866
866
744.
744. 4 berapa?
46.
Okey. Lagi ada nama saya tak sebut?
Sir.
Ya. Nur
Tadi
Hazika
saya dah
Diana.
sebut nama saya tapi saya pergi toilet.
Pergi toilet. Nur Hazika. Ni ya, Nur Hazika Diana. Okey. Lagi?
Saya.
Siapa tu?
Nur Ardini.
Nur Ardini.
Nama saya ada.
Nur Ardini lagi? Siapa lagi?
Siti Azizka.
Siti Hazika. Dah sebut tadi. Okey. Siti Hazika. Lagi? Ada lagi? Tak ada Saya dah sebut semua ya. Okey, jadi alhamdulillah kita bersyukur pada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Syukur yang tidak terhingga pada Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Sekarang ni kita berada pada bulan Ramadan dan atas permintaan majoriti daripada pelajar, kuliah dijalankan secara online selama 3 minggu. Jadi sebelum raya. Jadi awak akan balik semula ke sini pada raya yang keempat, insya-Allah, untuk memulakan kelas face to face ya. Okey, jadi walaupun dah semester 5 ataupun semester 6, jadi saya mengajak awak semua untuk memperbetulkan niat ya. Memperbetulkan niat kita apabila kita nak menuntut ilmu ni, kita kena perbetulkan niat. Kita niatkan kita menuntut ilmu ni kerana Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, sebab Allah yang suruh kita tuntut ilmu. Ya, Allah yang suruh kita tuntut ilmu. Menuntut ilmu itu adalah wajib bagi lelaki dan perempuan. Ya, bagi lelaki dan perempuan, dan menuntut ilmu adalah yang paling utama adalah ilmu fardu ain lah ya. Dan juga ilmu yang lain-lain adalah ilmu yang wajib juga. Ilmu tadi adalah ilmu alat ya, ilmu untuk kita berurusan, bermuamalat dengan manusia, ilmu untuk kita mencari pendapatan dan kehidupan. Jadi ilmu yang awak nak ambil ni adalah ilmu akaun lah. Jadi ilmu akaun ni adalah ilmu alat, iaitu ilmu untuk mencari rezeki nanti ya. Walaupun ilmu rezeki tadi tidak bergantung pada ilmu perakaunan ya, tetapi ilmu perakaunan ini adalah merupakan untuk awak lah ya. Untuk awak nak cari kerja dan sebagainya, awak kena gunakan kelulusan yang ada. Jadi ambil kesempatan ini, saya bagi peluang kepada semua untuk belajar bersungguh-sungguh. Jadi pada hari ini setiap orang masih lagi mempunyai 100 markah. Ya, setiap orang masih lagi mempunyai 100 markah. Jadi terpulang kepada awak semua nak tinggalkan berapa markah untuk awak, untuk diri sendiri. Ya, jadi hari ini semua orang saya bagi 100 markah. Kemudian kita akan ada test, ada quiz, ada group assignment. Jadi masa itulah, okey, markah akan berkurang daripada 100. Tapi kurang tadi janganlah kurang banyak-banyak sangat ya. Tinggalkanlah 80 lebih supaya dapat A. Kalau tinggal 75 dapat A minus. Kalau tinggal 50 dapat C. Jadi terpulang pada awak semua. Saya bagi peluang sama rata kepada semua untuk menuntut ilmu ni. Dan kita set dekat kita punya mind, kita punya heart. Okey, saya nak dapat A. Ya. Kita set dekat mind kita, dekat heart kita nak dapat A. Itu bukanlah merupakan sesuatu yang mustahil untuk kita dapat. Ya, sebab semester yang baru ni ramai juga mendapat A. Walaupun ada juga yang dapat C, ada juga, tapi ramai yang dapat A. Itu yang pertama. Kemudian yang kedua dari segi teknik belajar. Teknik belajar ni kita kena belajar bermula daripada hari pertama kita ada kuliah. Kemudian kita gunakan kertas dan pen. Kita gunakan kertas dan pen ataupun pensel untuk kita menulis supaya kita terbiasa menulis. Apa yang kita dengar walaupun tak sama dengan apa yang lecturer cakap, kita tulis. Jadi kita dah terbiasa menulis daripada hari pertama kelas. InsyaAllah pada hari ujian, pada hari kuis, pada hari peperiksaan, kita akan mudah untuk kita menjawab sebab kita dah biasa kita tulis jawapan ataupun kita tulis nota kita. Itu ya. Jadi walaupun awak ada tab ataupun ada komputer, ada handphone dan sebagainya, kertas dan pen adalah merupakan medium yang paling utama sebab semasa peperiksaan, semasa ujian, semasa kuis, awak akan menggunakan pen dan kertas. Jadi kita biasa-biasakanlah daripada hari pertama ni kita gunakan pen dan kertas. Jadi saya telah applykan perkara ini kepada pelajar-pelajar saya. Saya rasa 2 semester yang lepas dan semester yang sebelumnya, saya tekankan tentang kepentingan pen dan kertas ini dan saya rasa pencapaian pelajar meningkat dengan agak mendadak juga. Semester lepas dan semester yang sebelumnya, pencapaian yang lebih baik daripada semester-semester yang sebelumnya. Sebab pada semester-semester yang sebelumnya itu saya biarkan saja pelajar nak catat dekat handphone ke, nak catat dekat tab dan sebagainya. Tapi saya galakkan daripada 2 semester yang lepas, sila catat di atas kertas. Sama ada dalam buku ataupun dalam test pad dan sebagainya. Okey, itu pesanan-pesanan saya di awal semester. Saya harap awak ingat pesanan-pesanan ini. InsyaAllah pesanan ini bukan untuk diri saya, tapi untuk kejayaan awak semualah insyaAllah. Okey. Dan jadi jangan lupa kita berdoa dan berniat setiap kali kita sebelum pergi menghadiri kuliah sama ada secara online ataupun face to face, saja aku menuntut ilmu kerana Allah Ta'ala. Okey. Jadi item pertama yang saya akan tunjuk pada awak pada pagi ini adalah weekly lesson plan. Okay, weekly lesson plan. So this is the weekly lesson plan for the current semester. Okay, for the first and second week, we are going to learn about the first topic, that is intangible asset. Intangible asset under MFRS 138 and MFRS 136. This is based on textbook Tan Leong Tong. Tan Leong Tong 2019. Tan Leong Tong 2019. Okay. Kemudian, minggu yang ketiga, kita akan belajar agriculture. MFRS 141, specifically for biological asset. Kita akan belajar pasal lembu, kambing, kerbau. Okay. Macam mana treatment dia dalam accounting. Inilah dia MFRS 141. Selama 6 jam ataupun 2 minggu. Tetapi disebabkan semester ni 3 minggu yang pertama, lepas tu kita ada cuti seminggu. Jadi nanti bila naik daripada hari raya yang kelima, kita akan sambung dengan bahagian yang kedua, biological asset, untuk seminggu lagi. Okay. Kemudian in week 5 up to week 6, you are going to learn about the third topic, company reconstruction and change in business structure. Kita akan ambil masa seminggu setengah. Seminggu setengah. Dan untuk topik yang ketiga, kita gunakan buku Jane Lazar. Ada tak buku Jane Lazar ni pada awak? Ada tak siapa-siapa yang ada buku ni, Jane Lazar?
Ada, sir.
Okay. Jadi make use of the book. Daripada minggu yang ke-6 sampai minggu yang ke-5 sampai ke-14, kita akan gunakan Jane Lazar. Bukanlah maknanya kita akan guna sentiasa dalam kelas, tidak. Tetapi rujukan utama kat situlah. Jane Lazar. Okey, kemudian pada penghujung minggu yang ke-6, kita akan mulakan dengan tajuk yang keempat, iaitu Consolidated Statement of Financial Position. Okey, selama 10 jam ataupun 3 minggu setengah. 3 minggu setengah. Consolidated Statement of Financial Position. Kemudian kita akan ada test, ada common test. Kita ada satu test saja, common test. Pada 4 hari bulan Mei, 4 Mei, hari Sabtu, 9 hingga 10.30. Okey. 4 Mei, hari Sabtu, 9 hingga 10.30. Kemudian kita ada cuti pertengahan yang kedua, iaitu cuti khas perayaan selama seminggu, 26 hari bulan 5 hingga 1 hari bulan 6. Kemudian kita sambung minggu yang ke-10. Tak habis lagi dengan kita punya Consolidated Statement of Financial Position. Ada 6 jam lagi ataupun ada 2 minggu lagi. Jadi semua sekali kita belajar Consolidated Statement of Financial Position ni selama 5 minggu setengah. 5 minggu setengah. Kemudian minggu yang ke-12 hingga minggu yang ke-14 kita akan belajar topik yang terakhir, iaitu Consolidated Statement of Profit or Loss and Other Comprehensive Income, and also Consolidated Statement of Changes in Equity. Jadi daripada minggu yang ke-5 sampai minggu yang ke-14 kita akan menggunakan buku Jane Lazar. Jadi buku Jane Lazar pun penting. Buku Tan Leong Tong ada tak?
Ada, sir.
Ada juga, Alhamdulillah. Jadi dua-dua buku tak payah belilah kalau dah ada. So kalau yang belum ada tu digalakkanlah untuk beli. Kalau tak beli pun, tak beli secara individu, mungkin boleh kongsi dengan kawan-kawan lah. Ada a few item yang kita nak tengok daripada buku. Okey, kemudian kita akan ada revision week pada minggu yang ke-15 tu. Seminggu. Kemudian final examination dan juga semester break. Semester break ni cuti semester lah selama sebulan lebih. Semester break ni selama sebulan lebih. Okey. Jadi kita ada 42 jam semua sekali untuk kita belajar 5 tajuk. Kemudian assessment yang pertama adalah test pada minggu yang ke-6. Tarikh dah sebut tadi 4 hari bulan 5. 4 hari bulan 5 hari Sabtu pukul 9 pagi. Kemudian kuis yang kedua, assessment yang kedua adalah kuis. Untuk test tadi 20%. Dan tajuk dia adalah Intangible Asset dan Agriculture. Kuis pada minggu yang ke-10, tajuk Capital Reduction, iaitu tajuk yang ketiga. Kemudian kita ada group assignment. Group assignment tajuk yang keempat. Ini akan diberi dalam tempoh 2 minggu, minggu 13 dan 14. Dan hujung minggu 14 kena submit lah assignment ni secara kumpulan. Kumpulan 4 orang pelajar dalam satu kumpulan. 4 orang dalam satu kumpulan. Jadi saya tengok number of student in this class is 20. So boleh set lah awal-awal. Daripada awal lagi. 4 orang 4 orang makna ada 5 kumpulan lah dalam kelas ni. Okey. So reference tadi adalah Tan Leong Tong dan juga Jane Lazar. Buku yang pertama dan buku yang kedua. Okey. Kemudian berkaitan dengan final exam. Jadi final exam ni ada, saya typekan di sini final exam. Ada 5 soalan. Soalan yang pertama. Okey. Consolidated Statement of Financial Position. Okey. Yang ni 30 markah. Soalan kedua, Intangible Asset. Intangible Asset ni 15 markah. Soalan ketiga, Capital Reduction. Capital Reduction ni 10 markah. Soalan keempat, agriculture. Berapa agaknya? Agriculture 15 markah. Dan yang terakhir sekali adalah consolidated. Saya buat apa ni short form je lah ya. CSOPLOCI. Consolidated Statement of Profit or Loss and Other Comprehensive Income. Yang ni sebanyak berapa? 30 markah. So inilah dia keseluruhannya final exam. Dan total dia 100. 100 ni kita akan convert dia jadi 60 lah. Kita akan convert dia jadi 60 markah. Okay, kelas, ada apa-apa pertanyaan berkaitan dengan silibus konten ni?
Assalamualaikum Sir.
Ya, Waalaikumsalam.
Tanya pasal konsol SFP tu, dia tak sekalikan dengan konsol SOPL lah. Dia memang singkan lah.
Ulang balik soalan.
Tu tajuk konsol SFP tu,
Mm-hmm.
dia tak sekalikan dengan konsol SOPL lah dalam final exam tu.
Okey.
Sebab macam ni kan sekali.
Saya tak apa dengar suara awak. Boleh kuatkan sikit lagi tak? Awak punya volume.
Macam
Dekat sikit, dekat media. Dekat media awak dia dekat sikit. Okey, dekat sikit. Okey. Cakap lagi. Konsol.
Konsol SFP dengan konsol SOPL dia memang tak sekalikan dalam soalan.
Tidak. Dia sekalikan ni degree. Degree memang kita sekalikan. Degree kita sekalikan 60 markah. Untuk diploma kita asingkan 30-30. Kita nak selamatkan student sebenarnya bagi 30-30 kan, kalau bagi 60 terus. Okey. Maknanya akan ada kesukaran lah kan 60-60 ni kalau kita tak boleh buat Tapi kalau 30 ni mungkin CSOPL kita boleh buat. CSOFP kita tak berapa boleh buat. Jadi adalah ruang untuk kita dapat markah lagi. Tapi untuk semester lepas kebanyakan dapat skor lah untuk dua-dua soalan 30-30 tu. Ada lagi soalan lain? Ada lagi? Ada ya? So kalau nak keterangan lanjut boleh boleh berhubung dengan saya lah ya, Syaril.
Boleh,
Okey.
insyaAllah.
Okey, yang kedua saya akan show topik kita yang pertama lah. Okay, our first topic is intangible asset So this is our first topic, intangible asset. Bear with me. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So kita akan mulakan dengan intangible asset. So before you come to class, do you know what is intangible asset? Sebelum masuk kelas pada hari ini, dah tahu ke belum apakah dia intangible asset? Ada tak sesiapa yang tahu apakah dia intangible asset sebelum ni?
Aset yang tak ada fizikal.
Aset yang tak ada fizikal, okey. Aset yang tak ada fizikal, betul? Lagi? Sorry, tadi saya sebut nama Syahril Muhammad bin Syahril. Syahril itu nama ayah kan? Nama Muhammad Muhammad.
Ya betul.
Okey, sorry. Tadi saya tersebut nama Syahril tadi, minta maaf. Okey, siapa lagi yang nak bagi tahu apa yang dia tahu tentang intangible ni? Imran? Ada? Tak ada ya? Okey, tak apa, kita teruskan. Kita tengok intangible. asset. Intangible asset, MFRS 138. Okay, this is the framework for intangible asset. So actually, intangible asset is another item in the statement of financial position. Okay, I believe that you have learned about property, plant, equipment. You have learned about investment property. You have learned about account receivable. Yeah, you have learned about inventory. You have learned about current liability, and intangible asset is another item. Another item in the statement of financial position. Okay, so when we learn about any MFRS, we cannot run away from framework, because MFRS is framework based. So when I say it is framework based, we have to go through the item by looking at number 1 is definition. What is the definition of intangibles? And then next is to know what are the recognition criteria. Recognition criteria. Before we can recognize an intangible, we have to look at the criteria for recognition. We can see from here there are 4 criteria for recognizing the intangibles. That is, number 1, identifiable, control, future economic benefit, and the cost can be measured reliably. After we talk about recognition, after we can recognize the item, then we have to go through another item or another step, that is to measure. To measure. Measurement. Measurement is divided into 2. The first one is initial measurement. Initial measurement happen when we acquire the intangible asset. And then another one is subsequent measurement. Subsequent measurement. And then we have to look at the intangible asset can be divided into 2 categories. Okay. The first category is acquired intangible asset, and the second category is internally generated intangible asset. So we are not going to look at the framework fully, okay, but we are going to cover part of the framework, okay, starting from the definition of intangible asset until the accounting treatment of the intangible asset. Okay, basically MFRS 138 covers identification, recognition, measurement, and presentation of intangible. Identification here is definition. Identification, recognition, measurement, and presentation of intangibles. Intangible assets are identifiable non-monetary asset that have no physical substance, as mentioned by Muhammad just now. Okay, it is an asset with no physical substance. It means we cannot see and we cannot touch the intangible asset. It is an asset. It has the criteria for recognition of an asset, but it cannot be touched, it cannot be seen. It has no physical substance, but it is identifiable. The standard deals generally on intangible asset. The word standard here is referring to MFRS 138. Basically, MFRS 138 does not deal with goodwill. It deals with other intangible asset, but not goodwill. Not goodwill. Because goodwill will be dealt with in MFRS 3. MFRS 3 business combination. And including internally generated intangible classified as research and development. Intangibles. Intangibles must have the following qualities. It must be identifiable. It must be able to be controlled. It must have the future economic benefit. Identifiable, control, future economic benefit, and the cost must be able to be measured reliably. Okay, let's look at identifiability. What is the meaning of identifiability? Identifiability means it is separable. It has no physical substance, but it is separable. Okay, it is separable. For example, if you install a software in your computer, you install a software. Software is one example of intangible. You install your software in a computer. Can you separate the software from the computer? The answer is yes. You can install, you can uninstall. It is separable. What is the meaning of separable? The meaning is it is capable of being separated or removed from the entity. It can be sold. You take out from the computer and you can sell. It can be licensed to others. Okay. The software is still in the computer, but you can license others to use the software. It can be entered or exchanged. We can exchange our software. We can exchange our intangible asset either individually or together with related contract or related asset or related liability. Or it arises from contractual or other legal rights. So this is identifiability. It means we can identify separately the item. What is control? When we say I control this asset, what is the meaning of control? Control is present if the entity has the power to obtain future economic benefit flowing from the underlying resource. Underlying resource here is referring to the intangible asset. And you can restrict others from having access to those benefits. You can get the future economic benefit flowing to you, and you can restrict others from having access to those benefits. So for example, just now you purchase a software. You can get the benefit from the software. For example, you purchase an accounting software, you install in your computer, and you involve in a business whereby you are providing a service for companies. Yeah, you can prepare financial statement for companies. So that is the service that you get, that you have. And from the service, you are going to get the revenue. So revenue is actually future economic benefit that will flow to you. And because you are the owner of the software, you can restrict others. Restrict others means you can disallow others from having access to those benefits. So the benefit is belong to you, not belong to others. If other people want to use or to get the benefit from the resources, you can rent the intangible asset to them, or you can license to them to use the software. That is number one. Number two, legal rights that are enforceable in court may indicate control. So if you want to know who is actually controlling, let's say, for example, there are two parties claim. There are two parties claim that they have control over the intangible asset. So you go to court. You go to court and the court will decide who is controlling. And number three, an entity may derive economic benefit from skilled workers, from market share, from customer list, but has no control over them. So this is an example whereby, okay, when you spend money for training your workers, your worker becomes skilled. Your worker becomes skillful. Your workers' skill will be improved, but you cannot control your workers from leaving your company. If you have a good market share, for example, let's say you have 40% market share. Can you control the market share? No, you cannot control. And if you have the customer list, you have the customer list, still you cannot control the customer because the customer can choose other service provider or goods seller. So basically, if you send your staff for training, you cannot say that the training is an intangible asset. If you have a good market share, you cannot say that you have an intangible asset. If you have a customer list created by you cannot say that you have an intangible asset. Okay. So the first sentence is about the control. Okay. And the third sentence is about the item that you cannot control. Okay. Number 3, future benefit. What is future benefit? Future economic benefit. Future economic benefit may arise from the sale of product or services, from cost saving or renting of the asset. So you can imagine, okay, you are an accountant working in an accounting firm, okay. You have to compare. The first situation is you prepare financial statement manually. You prepare financial statement manually. Second one, you prepare financial statement based on software. Which one is easier?
Using software.
Using the software. It's easier. Of course, you have to purchase the software, but the software is an intangible asset, can be recognized as an asset, and it can be amortized. Okay. Jadi you boleh nampak. Maknanya, if you prepare your financial statement, preparing financial statement is not just preparing the financial statement. You must start with data entry, right? All the transaction must be key in. Okay, up to preparation of statement of profit or loss, statement of financial position, statement of changes in equity. But if you use the software, you just enter the data, and then the rest will be done by the accounting system or accounting software. Of course, there is a cost saving. Yeah, there is a cost saving. Yeah, you can prepare many financial statement in 1 month, but if you prepare manually, maybe only one set of financial statement manually. MFRS 138 requires an entity to assess the probability of the future economic benefit using reasonable and supportable assumptions that represent management best estimate of the set of economic condition that will exist over the useful life of the asset. So, you have to assess. If you cannot assess, you get the professional to assess the probability of the future economic benefit using reasonable and supportable assumption. Okay, for example, you have you purchase a license or you purchase a franchise. You purchase a franchise from franchisor, and the life of the franchise is 5 years. And the life of the franchise is 5 years. How do you know that? How do you know that it is 5 years? Because the contract is 5 years. Because the contract is 5 years. Yeah. So you can use the franchise for 5 years. You can use the franchise for 5 years. Another example is, let's say you purchase a patent. You purchase a trademark. So how are you going to assess the probability of future economic benefit? Okay. So you have to support with assumption. Yeah. Supportable assumption and management best estimate. In assessing the degree of certainty attached to the flow of future economic benefit, greater weight should be given to external evidence. So before we can arrive at the amount of the future economic benefit that will flow to the company, you must first, make a survey. Make a survey, for example, okay, how many people will buy our product? How many people will buy our product, and what is the amount of the revenue that we are going to receive, that we are going to get in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. Okay. Now, we move further to initial recognition. First time recognition. After we have identified that this is an asset, we are going to recognize this asset. This is an asset. Recognition, mengenali. Initial recognition. So an intangible asset is recognized when it meets the definition of an intangible asset and the recognition criteria, which are: it is probable that the expected future economic benefit that are attributable to the asset will flow to the entity, and the cost of the asset can be measured reliably. So, if in your professional opinion, future economic benefit will flow to your company, and the cost of the intangible can be measured reliably, so you can recognize this as an asset. You can recognize this as an asset. In this topic, it is intangible asset. Recognition of subsequent expenditure. Most subsequent expenditure are written off because most of the item or most of the expenditure are based on a category of maintenance. Category of maintenance. Maintenance, you just maintain the software. The nature of intangible asset is such that there will not be replacement of parts or additional item to them. Okay, when we purchase software, for example, we are not going to replace the part of the software. We can improve the software, of course. For example, if the license is yearly, so to enable to use the license next year, we have to renew the license. We have to renew the license. But this one is, we are talking about subsequent expenditure. Subsequent expenditure, okay, will not normally be recognized as additional amount to the intangible asset. It is different from property, plant, equipment. Property, plant, equipment, for example, building. You can replace the part of the building. You remove the old part and you put the new part. The same goes to motor vehicle. You remove the engine, you put the new engine. But for intangible asset, it is not the same. In addition, it is difficult to attribute the subsequent expenditure to a particular intangible asset rather than the business as a whole. An intangible asset is recognized as a result of, so there are 5 methods. There are 5 methods of acquiring the assets or recognizing the asset. The first one is by way of separate acquisition. Secondly, acquisition of asset as part of a business combination. Thirdly, acquisition by way of government grant. Number 4, exchange of asset. Or number 5, internally generated. Internally generated. So we have 5 ways of recognizing an asset. We go to the first one. We go to the first one, separate acquisition. But before that, we talk about measurement. Initial measurement, and intangible asset is measured initially at cost. Okay. For separate acquisition, we have 5 categories just now. Separate acquisition. What is the meaning of separate acquisition? It means we purchase the intangible asset one by one. We purchase the intangible asset one by one. Let's say we purchase 2 software. We purchase 2 software. The first one is accounting software. The second one is management software. So we purchase 2 separate software, 2 different intangible asset. So how are we going to calculate the cost? The cost will comprise of the purchase price, including incidental costs such as taxes, less trade discount, and rebates, and add any directly attributable cost of preparing the asset for intended use. Okay, for those who have the book, you can refer to the book in page 547. In page 547. So for those who have the book, you can refer to that page. And we are going to discuss the example in page 547. Sekejap, saya cari gambar dulu sekejap. Okey, dapat tak gambar? Dapat tak gambar muka surat 547? Last?
Dapat.
Dapat.
Dapat ya? So, kita tengok gambar. Bukan yang ni. Okey, nampak gambar ni ya? Sekejap. Rasanya sepatutnya saya ambil yang lain bukan yang ini. Sekejap ya. Bukan, saya bagi gambar lain. Sekejap ya. Sekejap saya ambil gambar lah. Ya. 547. 547. Okey, saya dah send saya dah send gambar ke surat 547. Ini ya. Boleh nampak semua?
Boleh.
In the case
Boleh,
of
sir.
an acquired intangible asset, the cost comprised of purchase price, including any import duty, non-refundable purchase tax, any directly attributable expenditure on preparing the asset for its intended use. Directly attributable costs include cost of employee benefit arising directly from bringing the asset to its working condition. Professional fee arising from bringing the asset to its working condition. The cost of testing whether the asset is functioning properly or not. Any trade discount and rebate are deducted in arriving at the cost. Okay. Jadi dalam example ni kita ada purchase price is 10 million. Purchase price for what ni? Purchasing a prototype. Prototype is an example of intangible asset. So purchasing of a prototype design, the detail is purchase price 10 million. Import duty 2 million. Professional fee 100,000 and the company get 10% trade discount. So the question is, what is the initial cost of the prototype design? So The cost of acquiring the prototype design is purchase price 10 million plus import duty 2 million plus professional fee 100,000 minus trade discount of 1,000. So altogether, the cost of the intangible asset is 11,100,000. Ya, 11,100,000. Okey, ada soalan?
Tak ada.
Tak ada Okeylah, kalau tak ada kita break dulu 5 minit, lepas tu kita sambung lagi. Boleh?
Boleh sir.
Okey. Okey, boleh kita sambung lagi?
Boleh, sir.
Okey ya, kita sambung dengan another example. Another example ni daripada muka surat yang berikutnya. The example is about TR-Nix. Yeah, TR-Nix entered into a contract to acquire the franchise for healthy yogurt ice cream. TR-Nix has to pay 1 million for the franchise and recipe. For franchise and recipe, and can manufacture and sell the yogurt ice cream for 5 years. Additionally, TR-Nix has to have premise to manufacture and sell the ice cream. TR-Nix rented the premise and the equipment and furniture were bought from the franchisor for 1.5 million and it has also incurred 300,000 in advertising and recruiting the staff. Okay, so we learn about another example of intangible asset, that is franchise. Okay, do you know any franchise surrounding you? Can you mention a few? Can you tell me a few franchise that you know?
KFC.
KFC lagi?
McD.
McD lagi?
Starbucks.
Starbucks lagi?
Burger Ramly.
Burger Ramly. Okay. Jadi kita tahulah ya, franchise ni maknanya, okay, we use the name. We use the name. Maknanya contoh KFC lah ya, KFC ni. You cannot simply fry the chicken and you sell as a KFC. You cannot simply use the name of KFC because to be a KFC fried chicken, you must have the franchise with KFC. Jadi jangan, kita tak boleh lah nak jual ayam KFC dekat warung ke, ya, ataupun dekat rumah ke. Tak boleh, kena ada franchise dulu. Kemudian kita bayar juga untuk resepi dia. Okey, kemudian kita gunakan peralatan dia. Peralatan dia, packing pun packing dia, semua dia punya lah. Jadi itu example. Jadi kat sini example kita adalah franchise for healthy yogurt ice cream. The company pay 1 million for the franchise and recipe. And because of that, the company can manufacture and sell the yogurt ice cream for 5 years. Yeah, manufacture and sell for 5 years. Jadi tempoh masa franchise tadi adalah 5 years. Additionally, TR-Nix has to have premises. Of course, you want to sell the ice cream, you must have the premise. You want to manufacture the ice cream, you have to have the premise. So TR-Nix rented the premises and the equipment and furniture were bought from the franchisor for 1.5 million. It has also incurred 300,000 in advertising and recruiting the staff. Okay, so there are many items. There are many items. There are many items that we can see from this example. Okay, the first one, TR-Nix make a payment of 1 million. So 1 million can be recognized as intangible asset under MFRS 138. Why? Because it acquire the franchise. Acquire means buy. Acquire means purchase. So when you purchase the franchise is an intangible asset. Because you can measure the cost reliably. Can measure the cost reliably. That is 1 million. What about the 300,000? The 300,000 that you spend for advertising and recruiting the staff. It is not intangible asset. It is an expense. It is an expense. And what about 1.5 million that you pay for purchasing the equipment and furniture? You purchase from the franchisor, the same company. 1 million you trade as intangible asset. But 1.5 million you trade as property, plant and equipment under MFRS 116. You cannot trade that as an intangible asset. Okay, this is an example of separate acquisition. Next, example 2. Example 2, Tall Enterprise, a manufacturer of ladies' handbag, hired a brand consultancy agency to build up the name brand Tall Champ for its line of handbags. Okay, the keyword here is hired. Hired a brand consultancy. Hire means you pay the salary or you pay the rental for the consultancy agency. So you are not purchasing, you are not acquiring, you are not buying. So this brand Tall Champ is not an intangible asset because from accounting viewpoint, it is internally generated. Yeah, internally generated intangible cannot be recognized as an intangible asset. If you put here acquire a brand, acquire a brand, then it is an intangible asset. But you hire a brand consultancy, it is not an intangible asset. Okay, you pay 20 million. The consultancy was paid of 20 million. Massive advertising and marketing strategy was used, and Tall Champ managed to capture a considerable market share and was a hit with brand-conscious ladies. For years 14 and 15, the brand was a success. And then in year 16, the brand was sold to Long Enterprise for 45 million. So can you recognize, can Tall Champ recognize 20 million as intangible asset? The answer is no. You cannot recognize as intangible asset even though you pay 20 million. You will have to recognize it as an expense. Yeah, an expense, and you have to write off in SOPL, statement of profit or loss. Okay, in the year X16, Tall Champ sold to Long Enterprise at 45 million. Okay, can Long Enterprise recognize this brand as an intangible asset? The answer is yes. Yeah. In the hand of Tall Enterprise, it cannot be recognized as intangible asset. But in the hand of Long, it can be recognized as intangible asset because Long acquire, Long purchase, Long buy from Tall Champ. So 45 million can be recognized as intangible asset by Long. By Long. Okay. Next. Acquisition as part of business combination. Okay, acquisition as part of business combination. Actually, we are going to learn about business combination in topic 3. Yeah, we are going to learn about business combination in topic 4. And we are going to discuss in detail in topic 4. Consolidated statement of financial position. But this one, we are going to talk about acquisition of intangible asset as part of a business combination. In a business combination, the acquirer is to recognize at the date of acquisition all identifiable intangibles of the acquiree. So basically, if you want to purchase another business, you want to know what are the assets of the business. What are the non-current asset? What are the component of non-current asset that normally comprise of property, plant, equipment, investment property, intangible asset, right? So you want to know the component and what is the value. And those assets will be identified separately from the goodwill. This identifiable intangible could have been recognized earlier. For example, the company has patent, acquired patent. So the company will recognize and put the patent in the statement of financial position. But at the same time, the company may have another type of intangible that cannot be recognized, or intangible that is not having any value or any cost. Therefore, it is not recognized. It was not recognized by the acquiree. Okay. So one is the item that has already been recognized. Another item is an item that has not been recognized earlier. Okay. So in business combination, you can recognize both. You can recognize the one that has been recognized earlier, maybe with different value, and the one that has not been recognized earlier with a different value. The acquirer should recognize in process research and development project of the acquiree if it meets the definition of intangible and its fair value can be measured reliably. This intangible asset will be measured at fair value, which is the quoted market price in an active market. Okay, it will be recognized, yeah, based on the market price. Okay. For this one, we have an example. But the example is together with acquisition by way of government grant. An intangible asset acquired free of charge. Yeah, acquisition of government grant is intangible asset acquired free of charge or for a nominal consideration. By way of government grant, they are measured initially at fair value or at cost. So we are going to look at the example 8 in page 549 for acquisition as part of business combination and acquisition by way of government grant. Okay, let's go through example 8 in page 549. Sekejap ya, saya cari example 8. Ini example 1. Example okay, saya bagi example dia sekejap ya. Ni dia. Example 8. Example 8 ya. Kita tengok example 8. On 1st January 2007. On 1st January 2007. Syabas Berhad acquires a 100% interest in equity capital of Puncak Air Berhad. Jadi acquisition ni adalah business combination lah. Ya. Puncak Air Berhad paying cash consideration of 515 million. On this date, the share capital and reserve of Puncak Air are 100 million and 200 million respectively. Apa maknanya? Maknanya total equity adalah 300 million. Okay, 300 million adalah total equity. Jadi you nak acquire equity tadi. You nak acquire 200 million plus 100 million. 300 million tadi dengan membayar 515. Kan? You pay 515 to get this 300 million. But before you make the payment, before you make the payment, you want to assess what is the value, what is the real value of the net asset of the company. You know net asset of the company. To calculate net asset is total asset minus total liability. Total asset minus total liability is equal to net asset. Net asset is equal to equity. Now, we do not have the figure for total asset and total liability, but we have the figure for total equity. So here, in this question, total net asset is equal to total equity. And the value is 300 million. Now you want to pay 515 million for total equity of 300 million. But before you pay, you want to assess what is the actual value of the equity. What is the actual value of the net asset of Puncak Air. So, we read the second paragraph. On acquisition date, Puncak Air Berhad Water Processing Plant with the carrying amount of 220 million is valued independently at 300 million. So, ada satu item plant. Water plant ni, carrying amount dia 220 million but revalued to 300 million. Maknanya nilai dia meningkat, improve. The value increased by 80 million. So 80 million is the change in value of water plant. Water processing plant increased by 80 million. But this 80 million is subject to a tax of 25%. Subject to a tax of 25%. So the value increased by 80 million but reduced by 20 million because of tax. Okay, jadi ada net increase by 60 million. Water processing plant. And then the company has another asset. What is the asset? Also, Puncak Air holds an exclusive water right from the government for a 25-year concession. Based on the discounted cash flow method, the fair value of this water right is assessed at 200 million. Jadi, company ni ada satu lagi aset yang dapat percuma daripada kerajaan. It is a government grant. Percuma daripada kerajaan. Dan bila kita nilai dia adalah 200 million. Jadi, daripada nilai 0, dia tak letak. Sekarang ni nilai dia menaik ataupun meningkat sebanyak 200 million. Nilai meningkat menjadi 200 million. So, 200 million ni pun ada kena bayar cukai juga 25%. So, dia reduce by 25% kali dengan 200 million, maknanya reduce by 50 million. So, sekarang ni, net asset of Puncak Air has increased from 300 million to 510 million. Macam mana increase? Sebab ada increase in water processing plant. Dan ada increase because of government grant bernilai 200 million. Jadi nilai net asset dia telah meningkat daripada 300 kepada 510 juta. Jadi, consideration ataupun bayaran yang dibuat 515 million tadi, we compare with 510 million. Kita compare dengan 510 million. So, kita dapatlah goodwill sebanyak 5 million. Ya, kita dapat goodwill 5 million. Jadi, apa yang kita nak cerita dalam example 8 ni sebenarnya, yang pertamanya, okay, yang pertamanya ada government grant. Government grant, intangible asset acquired by way of government grant. Sebanyak berapa? 200 juta. 200 juta. Jadi ini adalah berkaitan dengan kita punya one way of acquiring intangible asset tadi. Ya, sebanyak 200 juta. Okey, ada apa-apa soalan kat sini? Ada tak? Boleh faham tak? Boleh?
Boleh.
Boleh ya? Okey, kalau boleh kita teruskan lagi. So, saya akan share semula nota tadi. Okey, kita ambil example tentang Metro Express. Metro Express. Metro Express was given the right to construct and operate an exclusive tram line for 15 years in the center of town. Metro Express is a company was given the right. Telah diberi hak. So right here is an example of intangible asset. The right to construct and operate an exclusive tram line for 15 years in the center of town. Okay, do you know what is tram? Tahu tak tram?
Tahu.
Tak tahu ya? Google sekejap. Tram. Okay, saya tunjukkan contoh-contoh tram. Ni. Okay, nampak contoh tram ni? Tram. Tram ni bukan kereta api, dia bukan bas. Tram tram. Dia adalah nampak macam kereta api, macam bas, tapi dia tram. Okay. So tram ni, di Malaysia tak ada tram. Saya tak pastilah dekat Kuala Lumpur ada ke tidak. Okay, tram. Jadi, boleh jadi tram tadi menggunakan line ataupun rail seperti kereta api. Boleh juga dia menggunakan tayar. Tapi kebanyakan dia menggunakan rail seperti inilah. Jadi kalau pergi luar negeri, siapa yang berkesempatan ataupun berkemampuan, mungkin di Australia ada tram. Masa saya pergi ke sana masa belajar dulu tahun 96 saya pernahlah naik tram dekat sana. Jadi ni tram, kemudian bawah dia adalah tram line ataupun track dia. Jadi itulah dia. Maknanya the government give right to this particular company to build and operate the tram line. To build and operate the tram line. To construct and operate an exclusive tram line for 15 years in the center of town. The construction cost of the tram line was 100 million and the tram cost 60 million. Jadi 100 million dengan 60 million ni apa? PPE. Metro paid the government 35,000. 35,000 is not to purchase the right, tetapi apa? Earnest money for the tender. Isi borang. Nak isi borang tender. Kena bayar 25,000. After Metro Express got the award, it incurred legal and other administrative fees of 55,000 in relation to the license. And lastly, the fair value of the tram is, the fair value of the license of the ride is 4 million. Okay, now we have to analyze. Okay, I said just now, 100 million and 60 million is property, plant, equipment under MFRS 116. And what about the ride? What is the value of the ride? The cost of the ride is 25 plus 55. You have to pay 25,000 and 55,000. Ya. Yang 80 million tu, itu adalah dia punya cost. Dan dia punya fair value adalah 4 million. So according to MFRS 138, you may recognize at 4 million or at 80,000. So if you are the owner of Metro Express, how would you do? Do you want to recognize it as 4 million or 80,000? If you are the owner of Metro Express. Berapa nak letak? 80,000 ke 4 juta? Berapa?
4 juta.
4 juta. Boleh? 4 juta pun boleh. 80,000 pun boleh. Depending on your objective lah. Your objective. Kalau you nak letak 80,000 pun boleh. 4 juta pun boleh. Okay. Yang berikutnya adalah exchange of asset. Yang berikutnya adalah exchange of asset. The cost of the intangible acquired is measured at fair value. Ini kalau kita berlaku exchange of asset. Exchange of asset. Contohnya apa? We have a patent. 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 We have a patent. And the company is having a trademark. So we want to exchange the patent with trademark. We want to exchange. Kita nak trademark, kita nak let go patent. So patent kita nak bagi kat dia, trademark kita nak ambil. Okay, maknanya exchange of asset. The cost of intangible acquired is measured at fair value. So if the trademark has a fair value, if the trademark has the fair value, then when you want to recognize the trademark later, you are going to recognize at fair value of the trademark. However, if the exchange transaction lacks commercial substance, or the fair value of neither the asset received nor given up can be measured reliably, the acquired asset will be measured at the carrying amount of the asset given up. Jadi kalau katakan yang pertama tadi, if you can find the fair value of the trademark, you are going to recognize the trademark at fair value. But the problem is, you cannot find the fair value of trademark. At the same time, you cannot find the fair value of the patent. So what you will do? You will get the trademark. And the other party will get your patent. So how are you going to recognize the trademark? At what value? The value of the trademark is the same as the carrying amount of the asset given up. What is the asset given up? The asset given up is the patent. So let's say the carrying value of the patent is 1 million. Okay. And you do not know the fair value of the trademark. When you receive the trademark, when you get the trademark, you are going to recognize the trademark using the carrying amount of the patent. It means the value of the trademark is 1 million. Dapat tak? Boleh follow tak?
Boleh.
Boleh Okay. Next, internally generated intangible asset. Ini yang kelima. Internally generated intangible asset. Okay. MFRS 138 prohibits the recognition of internally generated goodwill. You have learned about goodwill. In part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, you learn about goodwill. There are so many goodwill. You prepare company account, you have goodwill. But MFRS 138 prohibit the recognition of internally generated goodwill. Only purchase goodwill can be recognized. When the purchase goodwill exists, the purchase goodwill only exists on acquisition or on business combination. Okay, internally generated brand, masthead, publishing title, customer list, and items similar in substance cannot be recognized as intangible asset. Okay, brand. For example, you create your own brand. You create your own brand. Nasi lemak Tok Ali. Contohnya kan, nasi lemak Tok Ali. So, adakah you beli brand tadi? Tidak. You create on your own. Sebab you kata apa, Tok Ali ni dia dah buat nasi lemak ni dah buat 50 tahun dah. Nasi lemak ni. Jadi dia ada macam ada brand lah. Brand nasi lemak Tok Ali. Can you recognize as an asset? No. Because you create the brand on your own. The brand is internally generated. It is not purchased. But if you purchase the brand, nasi lemak Tok Ali is a purchase brand. You can recognize. If you create on your own, you cannot recognize. What else? Must hits. What is must hits? Must hit ni apa? Kita tengok Google sekejap ya. Okey. Jadi masjid ni biasanya kalau kita apa? Kita ni ada publication. Contohnya apa? Kita ada surat khabar dan kita ada majalah. Kita tengok sekejap Kita ada surat khabar dan kita ada majalah. Saya tunjukkan sekejap. Awak biasa baca majalah dan surat khabar ke tidak? Okey, jadi contohnya sekejap ya. Okey, nampak contoh ni? Ini kalau kita ada magazine ataupun newspaper kita akan ada editorial board. Kat sini ni. Editorial board ni. Yang ni editorial board ni dia adalah internally generated. Internally generated. Dia untuk buat benda ni tak perlu bayar. Tak perlu beli. Jadi masjid ni adalah internally generated. Walaupun ada nilai tetapi nilai itu tidak dikira sebagai intangible asset. Okey. Itu masjid. Apa lagi? Intangible apa lagi tadi? Masjid. Publishing title. Publishing title. Nama surat khabar, nama majalah. Itu publishing title. Itu pun internally generated. Apa lagi? Customer list. Customer list. Senarai customer. Senarai customer yang kita buat sendiri. Kan, kita ada customer. Kemudian kita buat satu buku log. Buku log untuk senaraikan semua customer kita. Untuk kita senaraikan semua customer kita. Jadi customer list tu adalah internally generated customer list. So all these internally generated brand, masthead, publishing title, customer list, cannot be recognized as intangible asset. Tetapi kalau kita beli brand, kita beli magazine daripada orang lain, maknanya ada masthead dia, ada publishing title dia, kita boleh recognize as intangible asset. Sama juga customer list, kalau kita beli customer list daripada orang lain, ada harga dia. Yang penting kat situ, the cost can be measured reliably. If you can measure the cost reliably, then it can be recognized as intangible asset. Okay. Now, next one is difficult to identify whether and when there is an identifiable asset that will generate expected future economic benefit. Jadi masalahnya kenapa kita tak boleh recognize ni adalah difficult to identify. Difficult to identify when. When there is an identifiable asset that will generate expected future economic benefit. Bila masanya dia akan generate future economic benefit. Okay. Yang seterusnya, determine the cost of asset reliably. Can you determine the asset, the cost of the asset reliably? In some cases, the cost of generating an intangible asset internally cannot be distinguished from the cost of maintaining or enhancing the entity generated asset or of running day-to-day operation. Basically, kita tak boleh nak asingkan. Kita tak boleh nak asingkan cost of developing the brand and cost of maintaining day-to-day operation. Kita tak boleh bezakan. Adakah kita ada seorang kerani untuk jaga brand? Adakah kita ada seorang kerani untuk jaga customer list? Adakah kita ada seorang kerani untuk market share? Jawapannya, kita tak tahu. Kita tak tahu. Kadang-kadang kerani ni digunakan untuk benda lain. So, the cost of generating the intangibles cannot be measured reliably because it cannot be distinguished from the cost of maintaining or enhancing the entity of running day-to-day operation separately. Okay. Tetapi ada satu aset yang kita boleh recognize. Internally generated intangible that can be recognized, ada satu jenis sahaja, iaitu R&D. Research and development. Research and development. However, the research part cannot be recognized. Only the development part can be recognized. The name of the asset is research and development. But the component of research cannot be recognized. Only development component can be recognized. What is research? Research are activities aimed at obtaining new knowledge or the search of application of research finding or other knowledge. The search for product or process alternative or the formulation and design of possible new or improved product or process alternative. So all these four are recognized as research. Means we have to write off in the statement of profit or loss as an expense. So accounting treatment there, the cost incurred by an entity during the research phase are recognized as an expense in the period they are incurred. In the period they are incurred. So we cannot recognize as an asset. What about development? The cost incurred during the development phase must be capitalized if they meet all the following criteria. For development, there are 6 criteria before we can recognize. Number 1, the entity has the technical feasibility of completing the intangible asset so that it will be available for use or for sale. Maknanya kena ada technical feasibility of completing. Itu yang pertama. Yang kedua, the entity intends to complete. Ada intention to complete. Bukan saja ada technical feasibility, but the intention to complete. Number 3, the entity has the ability to use or to sell when it was completed. Kalau tak boleh nak guna sendiri, kita boleh jual. Tak boleh lah, dia tak boleh guna, tak boleh jual, tak boleh. Mesti ada salah satu ataupun dua-dua sekali. Number 4, the intangible asset will generate future economic benefit. Number 5, the entity has adequate technical, financial and other resources to complete the development and to use or sell the intangible asset. Has the adequate technical, not only technical but also financial. Not only technical but also financial. And other resources to complete the development and to use or sell the intangible asset. And lastly, the cost incurred during the development can be measured reliably. Okay, so last for today is to look at example 5 in page, example 1 in page 529. This is the last for today. Okay, next class kita akan sambung lagi. Jadi hari ini last kita nak tengok example muka surat 529. Okay, yang ni example 1. The R&D division. Boleh nampak R&D division of Biotech Berhad undertake both research and development activity of the company. Its current development project on a prototype is near completion. The cost identified in the project consists of the following. Cost of material use, 5 million. Service of consultant, 2 million. Fee to register trade design, 50,000. Amortization of patent for the project, 100,000. Selling and admin overhead, 1 million. 1 million ni kita tak boleh ambil. Kita kena exclude. Next. Initial operating loss, 500,000. Training cost, 100,000. Dua ni tak boleh ambil. So, total cost allocated, 8750. On top of that, the other costs that relate to this project are the salaries of scientists and technician, 1.2 million. And depreciation of equipment, 900,000. Management estimate that about 1/3 of this cost relate to development project. Jadi daripada 1.2 juta dan 900,000 tadi, 1/3 adalah untuk development. Determine the cost of development project that shall be capitalized. Okay. So, the cost of the development recognized as an asset is determined as follows. Apa yang kita boleh masuk? Cost of material, 5 million. Service of consultant, 2 million. Fee to register design, trade design, 50,000. Amortization of patent, 100,000. Salaries of scientists, 1/3 daripada 1.2 juta, 400,000. And depreciation of equipment, 1/3 of 900,000, 300,000. So altogether, we have to recognize 7,850,000 as research and development asset ataupun as a development asset. What about expenses yang kita tak recognize tadi? The selling and admin cannot be recognized. Training cost cannot be recognized. Loss tadi pun tak boleh recognize. Jadi yang kita boleh recognize adalah 7,850,000 sahaja. Okey, boleh faham example ni? Boleh ya? So kalau boleh, kita akhirilah kelas kita pada hari ini. Ada apa-apa soalan sebelum tu? Kita ada masa dah habis sebenarnya. Ada apa-apa soalan nak tanya berkaitan dengan intangible? Jadi kita berhenti pada muka surat inilah ya. Kita berhenti pada muka surat 15.
Baik, sir.
Ya. Ada apa-apa soalan tak?
Tak ada kot.
Tak ada ya. Okeylah. Ya. Jadi insya-Allah kita jumpa lagi pada kelas yang akan datang, iaitu pada hari Khamis. Khamis ke?
Rabu tak silap.
Rabu pada hari Rabu insya-Allah. So insya-Allah kita akhiri kelas kita pada hari ini dengan surah Wal Asr. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wal asri innal insana lafi khusr illa allazina amanu wa amilus solihat wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, sir.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you, sir.